Hi friends, I'm excited to be here with you today to share a layout I made for this beautiful sketch by Sophie. She made the sketch for our July sketch challenge, and so here I'm going to be giving my take on it. So I am using the May 2023 hip kits. I loved this pattern paper from the May kit, and I got busy. I just trimmed off the edge, the barcode edge, and then I am adding gesso, white gesso to it. So the gesso here, if you're not really familiar with gesso, it's just a medium that you can add to paper to protect the paper, add a moisture barrier so that any mediums that you're going to add on top of it don't get soaked in to your paper and warp it too badly or destroy it or eat it up or whatever. So you can add clear gesso, but I wanted to add white gesso because I am going to be adding some color on top of it in several areas, and so I wanted to kind of fade out that pattern a little bit, but I wanted the pattern all around the edge. So that's why I did this step. I am using a brayer tool to add that gesso, and then also my finger. So sometimes your finger works the best. And then here, what I'm doing, this beautiful pattern paper also from the May main kit, I am going to be fussy cutting lots of flowers out of that pattern paper. On Sophie's sketch, she had lots of flowers sort of to the left and then in the center to the right. So I'm going to be adding lots of flowers to my layout, and I fussy cut tons of them. I'm not going to make you watch all of that. And then here I did use this string wreath metal die from Hip Kit to cut out 2 circles. And then I also used the leaf scribble circle. That's this one, the leaf scribble circle. Those are both from past months, both metal dies from Hip Kit. And I'm going to be using those to mimic the circles that she had in the sketch. So to start this off, so I did add that white gesso so that I could add medium on top of it. So the colors, the main color that I use here is a Shimmers Paints Bahama Mama from a past color kit. So that is a beautiful pink color. And I'm just kind of adding that right on top of the gesso. It does dry a little lighter when you add different mediums to gesso versus just having them like on a mixed media paper or a white background. Your mediums are going to dry a little bit lighter than they look when they're wet. So just something to keep in mind if you're wanting super bold color. You have to add several layers of that if you're doing that on gesso. Here, this yellow color or the orange color is Cantaloupe. So this one that I'm adding right now is called Cantaloupe, also from a past color kit. And then I did add some splatters, and those do go off onto the pattern paper, which I love to have just a few splatters on there because those do show up with the metallic that's in these Shimmers products. You still do see that on top of that pattern paper. This yellow is Sunny from a past color kit. That's a beautiful bright yellow. Again, it is going to dry lighter than it shows up here. And then the last one that I'm going to be adding is a blue from a past color kit, and it's called Ride the Tide. So that bottom right corner is going to be a blue. And this pattern paper that I used on the background lends itself to add any color you want, really. So any color that you have in your stash from color kits that you've ordered or just things that you have on hand, you could add any colors. Lots of colors coordinate well with that pattern paper. Most of the color is going to be covered up, but it does poke out around the things on the final layout. So I'm going to set that off to dry for a little bit because it is nice and wet. And then now that is dry, I am using the May stencil that came in the color kit. It's a mandala or mandala. I don't know. I never know how to say that. Everyone says it differently. But I am using that stencil and texture paste on top of the mediums that I had already added. You can see there that they dried a lot lighter than they looked when they were wet. So I'm adding that stencil on the bottom left and then the top right, those 2 corners. In the sketch, there were some, you could kind of see some different things poking out behind the circles. And so I'm sort of mimicking that here with that stencil. Okay, so I've got my circles that I cut with the metal die there, kind of where they're gonna go. And then I did print this journaling off on my computer on one of the patterned, the cardstock papers, the green cardstock from the cardstock kit. I will tell you, I started with that green color. It was too much or too green for me. So I did go back and print it again, and I just glue it right on top of that with, there's kind of like almost like a light orange color, a very beautiful cardstock color in the cardstock kit. So I do end up reprinting that in a lighter color. But here you can just kind of see how I'm adhering down that, the leaf scribble circle. So I do add just 2 little pieces of craft foam. This one was a hard one because I popped up that journaling block. I popped it up on craft foam. It was kind of hard to adhere down the circle around it just because there's not a lot to glue to. So I did pop up 2 little pieces of craft foam on either side behind the leaves. And then I'm just gonna cover up that craft foam with a teeny tiny flower. And that did the job perfectly. You can't see the craft foam at all. And it looks like I purposefully added those little flowers in amongst those leaves from the die cut. So hopefully that makes sense. Just adding a little pink flower there to cover up that craft foam, and then another one on the other side. The one at the top, I don't end up having to do that with because I can adhere to the piece that I put behind it. With this one, I didn't want to adhere those little leaves to the journaling because it would have covered up the words. So I needed to be able to fold those up, bend those up. But here I'm going to add this circle piece of ephemera to the top right, and it was okay to be able to adhere down those leaves just directly onto that journaling block. Hopefully all that makes sense. I am going to add some craft foam behind that again and pop that up. And just a little side note, I did add wet glue. Anything that I'm adding on top of all of those mediums, especially that texture paste, and then the gesso with the paint on top of it, all of that needs to have wet glue to be able to adhere long term. It is hard to get things to stick to really thick mediums. So just so you know that as you're working. And then my 2 photos, those are from a beautiful day at the beach in Jamaica. If you follow my videos, you know that I am scrapping through a big Jamaica trip that we had last summer. So I did take 2 of those photos of my babies playing in the sand and the ocean, and I cut them with my circle cutter. I just found a circle that was just the right size to fit inside of those string wreaths, those metal dies. And I did add a cardstock border around each of the photos. It's kind of hard to tell. The top left has a pink, one of the pink pieces from the cardstock collection, so that string wreath had something to adhere to, because my photo is just inside of it. And then the bottom right, I added almost like a seafoam green that looks really beautiful with the patterned paper. So those were all from the cardstock kit that I used. And that gave me something for those dies to adhere to around my photo. And then here I am mimicking, so in this sketch there were some flowers on the left, top left of that photo, and then kind of the middle right of in between all of those circles. So she had 4 circles and then kind of flowers in between. So I definitely did more flowers than what's in the sketch. I know that's not shocking to anyone that knows my style. More is more for me. So I did add more flowers than what is in the sketch, but it is definitely something for you to interpret. It's your interpretation of the sketch. So for me, I love lots of flowers, lots of pieces. So all of these flowers are fussy cut from that one patterned paper. And then you can see I did go and snip in between some of the petals and things because I love to bend up the edges of the leaves and the flower petals. I want everything to have texture and everything to be coming off of the page. You can see when I lift it up, there's lots of texture on this one. This one is a fabulous, in person, it's got so much texture and depth to it, which I absolutely love. And then even when I put them in albums, I do store all of my layouts in albums eventually. I usually do a layout run through on my YouTube channel first before I put them in albums. But even when I put them in albums, they still, they're not as textured. They do flatten out just a little bit, but not much, because I'm adding craft foam behind each of those flowers. So they do hold their shape pretty well over time. And then as I've been talking, you can see I started adding some silver glittered foam stickers. I love these in the May collection. This was a first for Hip Kit exclusives to have those glittered foam stickers, and I absolutely love those and love how they look mixed in with these floral clusters. So I used some of the leaves and a few of the little flowers that you'll see tucked in. And those have great texture as well. They're super thick and very nice. I did add just a drop of glue to them. They have great adhesive. Actually, I was impressed with how much adhesive they have. They're a great product, but I do always add a drop of glue just for long-term storage. I like to have my own adhesive on there. And there, I'm tucking them in just kind of all around. If you're gonna have a whole lot of stuff on a layout, it does help to have everything really tight together, very compact, so that all of those busy things don't get lost all around the page. It's good to have them very close and tucked in together. Okay, here I am using, so in her sketch, she had a large title at the top, and so I am doing that as well. I'm using, again, those silver glittered foam stickers, and my title is gonna say Sweet Sunshine. So for the sunshine word, I just adhered it just like behind that S and U on the left, and then the I-N-E on the right, and then the letters in the middle between those circles are just kind of floating in the air, and they'll be fine just hanging out there. And then that word sweet, I just adhered to the background at the top with a little bit of glue, again, because it's sitting on lots of mediums. And I love how that title looks. I'm just making sure it's straight. All right, and then here I went back with some Nuvo drops. These are both of these colors of Nuvo drops are from past color kits. So I have a silver, glitter silver one, which goes perfectly with all of those embellishments that I just added. And then I have one that's kind of like a light turquoisey blue or green. So I'm going and adding little drops to the centers of all of my flowers, and then also just little clusters of dots around the floral cluster, just to kind of tie everything together and add a little bit more like jewels, a few little more jewels on the page that are going to be super shiny when they dry. And then these turquoise ones, when they dry, they almost look like glass. They're so beautiful. They dry very glossy. Love those. All right, and there is my layout. You'll see in the still photo, I did go back and add a couple little hearts up in that white area on the top right, in that journaling block. But other than that, this is the finished layout. You can see lots of shimmer and shine on the background and in the embellishments, and I love everything about that. If you are not already a Hip Kit subscriber, I do have the information below, the links to be able to go and do that. You do get a discount on your kits when you become a monthly subscriber, so that's definitely something that you should look into. And I hope you guys enjoyed the process. If you have any questions, pop them below, I'll answer them. And give the video a like and tap the bell for notifications if you enjoyed it. Thanks guys, have a great day.